Hello, welcome to a new video. Now, I had this great idea at the beginning of March when I started doing really well reading to challenge myself to read 31 books, one for every day of the month, which in theory was an amazing idea. However, I did it. I read 31 books, which is great. It's great. But now it comes to the point where I've got to film this video and then I've got to edit it. So I am going to try my best, unless I've got something significant to say about a book, which there are a couple, I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible because we don't want a video that's like over an hour long. I don't want to edit a video that's over an hour long. So we're gonna do our best here. But it is currently the 31st of March, and because I finished my 31st book yesterday, it is my birthday today, the day I'm filming this, and we've got a bit of time before we have to get ready. Tessa's reading, Ash is writing, so I thought, do you know what, I'm just gonna get this done. Just get it done. I've already edited my vlog. I'm just gonna get this done and I'm feeling productive, so let's do this. I read 31 books. That was a total of, now I'm really annoyed because I'm so close to a really big significant number. I read 9,941 pages. If I had just read maybe a manga, it would have been over 10,000. It was so many pages read. And I listened to 72 hours of audiobooks. I didn't listen to as many audiobooks as I usually do. I have been reading a lot of ebooks and physical books this month. So I read 19 physical books, 11 ebooks, and then 17 of those were also audiobooks. I don't think I read any that was just an audiobook. There was none that was just audiobook. So of the 17 audiobooks, it was a mix of like mixed media. I managed to do a wide range of genres as well because I read romance, mystery, adventure, fantasy, historical, horror and dystopia. I had no 2 stars. I had no DNFs. No DNFs. I had no 2 stars, 2 3 stars, 10 4 stars and 19 5 stars. Now, not only was this a quantity month, but it was a quality month. And of all of those books, only one of the 5 stars, and one of the books in general, was a reread for me. So I am so happy with how much I managed to get read. I'm excited to update my books I own spreadsheet with how many of these I have read, because most of them are books I physically owned. So I'm very happy with that. So let's get started, shall we? So I started the month with Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce. This is a cute YA book where he's massively into D&D. She is a musical theatre kid and she learns D&D. And it is a really cute YA romance. This was a 5-star for me. It was a great start to the month because this was just so cute. I loved this romance and it was, I love it. Next up was another 5-star, and it was Two for Joy by Zoe Selk and Amy McCulloch. I was a bit sceptical going into this because I was really worried, because I really enjoyed the first book, One for Sorrow. It's been a few years since I read that first book, so I had to read a recap, but then I remembered the ending, so I just had to read a recap just to remind myself of the rest of the book, just in case anything come up, and I'm glad I did, because there were a few things that were relevant in this book. But the ending threw me. That this was a solid 4-star for most of the book, and then something near the end just blew my mind and bumped it way up, and I am obsessed with the ending. It was so well done, and yeah. Next up was Till Death Do Us Part by Rose Black. I really enjoyed this one. This was also a 5-star, and this was a NetGalley book, so I got a NetGalley book ticked off, which I was very happy about. I really enjoyed the fact that these are like slightly older characters. It's queer, and I'm just here for all of it. Next up was another NetGalley book. I got through some NetGalley books this month, friends. And it was Poisoned by Jennifer Donnelly. So I read Stepsister a good few years back. We're talking like 2019 maybe. This came out and I was really excited because I really enjoyed Stepsister, because if you know me, you know I'm not a fan of Cinderella or Snow White, but when it comes to dark retellings, I am here for them. And I really enjoyed Stepsister and the twist that Jennifer Donnelly did on that. The twist that she did to the Snow White story was just even better, and I am so excited to read her next retelling, which is going to be a Beauty and the Beast style dark retelling, which I'm so excited for. So yeah, this was a 5-star and I am fully obsessed with it. I need to get a physical copy of it now because, yeah. Next up, I read Becoming the Dark Prince by Kerri Maniscalco. Now this is book 3.5. So this takes place between the 3rd and the 4th Stalking Jack the Ripper books. And I'm really, really glad that I read this because obviously it is just a novella. It's like 64 pages. Yeah, 64 pages. And most novellas don't really bring much more to the story, but this is sort of like the ending of book 3 from Thomas's point of view, and then we get something extra. And that extra thing, I was like, this is perfectly done in a novella, and I loved it. So this novella was one of my rare novella 5 stars. And even more so after I read Capturing the Devil by Kerri Maniscalco. This was also a 5-star. This has been a 5-star series for me. I have loved each book more and more, with the exception is the 3rd book is my favourite. This is a close second, I think. I just loved how the story wrapped up, and the thing in the novella is only mentioned as happening in this. We don't actually get to see it happen like we do in the novella. So I do think the novella is important because it was a really cute little addition to the series as a whole. So this was another series ticked off my list. Oh my god, I'm loving this. Next up was the Critical Role Chronicles of Exandria, The Mighty Nine. So this was a 4-star. This is an art book, but all of the artwork is from, like, it's fan art that I think it's mostly Liam and Taliesin have handpicked, and the artwork is insanely good, but they also have like written pieces for each of the characters and everything, and just like detailing it, and I do really enjoy this. My only issue is there are parts of the written part that is like it's been handwritten around the main text, and for accessibility it is not accessible. I cannot read cursive that's that cursive, and I do think, like, I mean, I know there's the European Accessibility Act coming in next year, like in 2025, where all ebooks need to be accessible. So like, I mean, that's a broad way of describing the act. Look into it if you want more information, but that's the basic, that all new ebooks have to be accessible, which is great. This is one that's gonna need that because that font is not it. Next, I finished another series that has been on my shelves for the longest time. I read Unleashed by Amy McCulloch. Now, I loved Jinxed. Did I have to read a recap? Yes, I did. Was it worth it? Yes, because this was so incredibly good. I love Jinx so much. Jinx is the cutest Baku. Bakus are like robotic animals, but they're essentially your phone. And I just love Jinx. Jinx is amazing. He's a black cat, Baku, and yeah. I think I forgot to say, this was a 5-star. The next 2 I read was another 2 of the volumes of the Mighty Nine Origins. So I read Ford Stone and I read Mollymock. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. Molly. These were both 5 stars, obviously. Ford's story really got to me because, like, he's just a, like, sad boy, and I love him so much, and Molly too. Molly's amazing. But yeah, these were both 5 stars. The artwork in these are really cool as well. Next up was my 3-star, and it was Dating Dr. Deal by Nisha Sharma. I wasn't a fan of this, and I'm not continuing the series, and this is probably going to go on my unhaul. This was so cringy. I liked the story idea. I hated her family, but her family were trash and she deserves better. And when I say it's cringy, there is one scene in particular, like the sex scenes are cringy, and there was one scene in particular where he says something and I was instantly put off. Like, it gave me the ick and I wanted to do an effort, but I was like, no, you're gonna power through. Yeah. Next up was Gwen and I Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. I have had this for like a year, I think. It might not even be a year, actually. Anyway, I have been wanting to get to this for a while and I just haven't, and I don't know why. But my push to do it was I found out that Lex Croucher was going to be moderating the Victoria Aveyard event and then would probably be signing books after, and I didn't want to get this signed without having read something by this author first, because I hadn't read any of their books yet, and this is the only one I own. And I read it and I'm really glad I did. This was a 4-star, but it was a really high 4-star. It was queer, which is everything, and it's like a queer Arthurian retelling, and I'm so here for it. Next up was another series to finish, and it was Glorious Poison by Kat Dunn. This is the final book in the Battalion of the Dead series. I read the first one years ago. I read the second one for Series TBR-a-thon last month, and then I read this one and I really enjoyed this. This has been a solid 4-star for every book in this series. It was a really good series. It just wasn't quite 5-star material, and I don't know why. I would say maybe because of the historical aspect, but then The Stalking Jack the Ripper is historical, and that was a 5-star for me. I did really enjoy it though. I really loved being back with the characters. It was just a fun time. Next up was my 12 books for 2024 pick, and that was Blue Lily, Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. Third book in the Raven Cycle series, finally continuing the series. I really enjoyed this. This was another 4-star. This whole series so far has been a 4-star for me. Not gonna lie, I do anticipate the final book being a 4-star, but that is not a bad thing. I'm okay if a series is all 4 stars. That is okay with me. I really enjoyed this continuation. I loved being back with the characters because I forgot how much I loved especially certain characters, and I'm excited to continue on and finish this series. Next up, I read Love Letters on Hazel Lane by Jennifer Page. This was a 4-star. I really enjoyed this. It's technically a romance, but I feel like I want to just call it more a contemporary, because whilst there was a romance, this was very much about her learning to love herself after a really bad divorce, and just learning to be herself and meet new people and just be the best self she can. And it was a really, really empowering story, and I just really enjoyed it. The romance was good. I liked it, and I did enjoy that it was the sort of romance where it wasn't a smutty romance. It wasn't even really spicy or steamy, and do you know what? I didn't mind that. I went into it not expecting that, so if you're going into it expecting it, you will be disappointed. But I went into it just thinking this is just a cute little romance, and that's what it was. Next up, I read one that Jem has been recommending for a while on her videos, and the thing that really did it for me was Demon Dog. I read volume 1 of Chainsaw Man. I was literally sold by the Demon Dog, and I am okay with that because he was the cutest. Also, the main character in this is hilarious. I relate to him on so many things. I just want all the happiness for them, and by happiness, it's one thing in particular he just is obsessed with wanting, and I'm here for that. Follow your dreams, Denji. Next up is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This was a 5-star. This is my Love Hypothesis 2.0. Is it a bigger love for me than Love Hypothesis? Absolutely not. Is it very, very close? Absolutely yes. Was this the best book ever written? No. Is it a favourite of mine now because it just made me so happy and gave me all the feels? Yes. I am obsessed with this. I had the e-arc of this and I just haven't got round to it. I think because there's been so much hype about it, and I was scared that I wasn't going to love it as much as the hype was anticipating I would. So I've been putting it off, and then Katie from Sitting Katie read this at the beginning of the year and really, really enjoyed it. So it gave me the push to want to actually read it. So I reserved the audiobook at my library, and I had like the ebook and audiobook together. I have a physical copy now because Tessa bought me it for my birthday because I loved this book so much and wanted a physical copy. So I now have a physical copy, but I'm obsessed with this. 5 star. I would have given it more stars if I could. Next up was one of my most anticipated books of the year, Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. This chunker made me cry multiple times, but it's Jay Kristoff, so I'm used to that. This was a 5 star. Are we shocked? No. I was very, very daunted going into this because I was scared, not gonna lie, because it's always that thing when it's an author whose books you have loved and you're scared that you're not gonna love it as much. But no, I shouldn't have doubted him. This book was incredible. There is so much that happens in this book, and it was really interesting. He was talking when I went to the talk in London that he did. Without spoiling anything, he did say there was another battle scene in this on top of the one that's already in it, and he ended up taking it out because it was just, there was too much. And I really appreciate that, because I think if there had been a battle scene earlier on in the book, it would have diminished my like anticipation for the second one, whereas now there is only the one big battle scene near the end, and it was just so intense and I absolutely loved it. Next up we have Solo Leveling Volume 2. I have been wanting to continue this series for the longest time. I do need to get more of this because I only have the first 2 volumes, so I need to get some more volumes. But I have been having the best time with this. This was a 5 star. I don't anticipate them being less than 5 stars from now on. I think the first one might have been as well, but I am having the best time with this. I love the main character and how he's learning things. I can't say more than that without spoiling, but it's amazing. Next up, I got a week's free trial of Shonen Jump, and I ended up keeping it, and it's like £3 a month, and there's like loads of different manga on there. Anyway, I read volumes 1, 2 and 3 of Death Note. I finally read Death Note. All 3 volumes were a 5 star. I really, really enjoyed this. I will say I was a bit taken aback because I didn't realise. So if you know anything about Death Note, you'll know that the person's name gets written into the Death Note and they will die. If you specify in the book how they'll die, that's how they'll die. If you don't put any like cause of death, then they will die of a heart attack. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the default cause of death. So I was a bit taken aback by it because trigger, but I think because of the context of it, and because once I knew that was the cause of death, I was prepared for it every time he wrote a name in without a cause of death. So I think that meant I was okay with it. But I did have but I was talking to Jem about it, and then Liam also commented on, I'd seen the comment too late because I'd already started reading it, but bless him, Liam left a comment on my vlog, the vlog before I read it, where I'd mentioned I was going to read it, and he gave me the heads up about the heart attack thing, and I very much appreciate that. I was just very late to reading that comment because I'm trying to keep up with comments, but it's not easy when I've been really busy. I'm trying to get better again. But yeah, so I very much appreciate that, but I was okay with it for the most part anyway. There was one bit that I was a bit, don't like this, but anyway, Death Note. Next up, I'm going to talk through 2 books that I read a few days apart with a few books in between, but I'm just going to talk about them both now because they're in a bind up. So I read books 1 and 2 of the Dark Vision series by LJ Smith. So that is The Strange Power and The Possessed. I only have The Passion left to read. So I've read this bit. I was very, very scared about going into this after hating the Secret Circle trilogy because of a certain trope that is in it. And for a second, I thought this was going to go in a similar direction, and it hasn't yet. There is still 1 book to go, but I'm hoping she doesn't go in that direction. But these were both 4 stars, and I am so glad that I finally read them and that I've enjoyed them. And I'm excited to read the 3rd book, which I was putting off Secret Circle, so this is an improvement. Next up, we had another series finisher, and I read The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen. This was a 4-star. I really enjoyed this. I did have to look up a recap. This is my issue. I probably would have been fine once I started reading it and I would have remembered everything that happened in the first book, but I didn't want to risk that. I didn't want to risk not remembering it and then not enjoying this to its full potential. So I'm very glad I did read a recap. It was really hard to find a recap. I had to read loads of spoilery reviews of the first book because there was nowhere. The websites I usually use to get recaps didn't have Merciful Crow, which was not fun. But I really enjoyed the continuation of the journey in this, and I really liked the ending. I thought the ending was so well done. I don't know how much I can say about it because I don't want to spoil it, but I really loved the ending. And that's the main thing. You want to enjoy the end of a series. Next up, I read The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This was a 4-star. This was a very, very high 4-star, but I really, really enjoyed this. I loved the world. The world was great. The characters were great. I love her. I love how the book literally opens with her scamming a rich, naive guy. It's great. I love it. Did this have twists and turns that I wasn't expecting? Yes, it did. I was shooketh by the end. I was like, what is happening? I'm really excited to read the second one, which I forgot to mention in my TBR video and had to just put it on the screen when I was talking about other books I wanted to read, because I forgot to mention it. I was stressed when I was doing that video. Next up was my reread for the month, and it was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. Obviously a 5-star. This is the 3rd time I've read this. First time tabbing, and that is a lot of tabs. Blue is every time I cried. I cried a lot. I love this ending. It's one of my favourite series endings ever, even if it breaks me multiple times throughout the journey to that ending. It's fine. It was great. Some of it was happy crying, just saying. And then I read 2 novellas set in the Chaos Walking world by Patrick Ness. So I read The New World and I read Snowscape. The New World was a 3-star, Snowscape was a 4-star, and I mentioned this in my vlog, but I really enjoyed especially Snowscape, because Snowscape really did bring something extra to this series. It reveals the answer to a question that's left unanswered in the main series, whereas The New World is just a little bit of additional information from the beginning of the book from a different character's point of view, which was still interesting, but Snowscape was it for me. I was so happy getting this answer. It was great. Then for Chloe's Patreon buddy read, we did All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown. This was a 5-star. I have a new favourite, like, dystopian apocalypse style book. This was absolutely incredible. I really enjoyed everything about it, and it's queer. It's queer. It was a really interesting author note at the end, because he actually started writing this before COVID. So COVID was not originally meant to be mentioned in this, and the thing that happens in this book is not COVID. COVID has happened in the past, so it's a completely different thing. But obviously he had to rewrite part of it to include COVID, because otherwise it just wouldn't make sense for COVID not to be mentioned. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was just so good. And then the final book, the 31st book I read in the month of March, was The Poisons We Drink by Bethany Baptiste. This was a 5-star. I am so happy I read this. I had the audiobook on NetGalley, which I only got like a month ago, I think. I need to write my review. I only finished this last night, so I haven't written my review yet. But I had the best time with this. The magic system in this was so intriguing, and it was so well thought out with the way they brew potions and the rules behind certain types of magic. And obviously I'm going to call them witch hunters. They're not called that in this, but they are essentially witch hunters, and seeing how they need to try and like fight back against the people trying to hurt them just for being witches. It was great. I loved the characters, and it was so good. It was so good. And this is going to be one that I genuinely will recommend to anyone who likes any sort of like YA fantasy, because This is so good. And look at that cover. I am actually obsessed with the cover. It is so pretty. The artist has done an incredible job on that. It's great. But that was everything. I did it. I did it. I did it. I talked about every single book I read. Favourite book of the month. This, My Roommate is a Vampire. It's literally, I'm referring to it now as my Love Hypothesis 2.0. I will take no further questions. Let me know in the comments below what your favourite book you read in March was. I am now going to go, like, not read for like 2-3 days before I start my April TBR. I'm not ready to start my April TBR tomorrow, so I'm going to have a couple of days break and just not read anything. I say that. I might pick up a manga because I have no control. We'll see though. I'm going to at least have today as a break though, because I need a break so much. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye.